Sometimes you find a person who maybe is 30, 40, involved in things which you don't like, terrible things. Then one day he wakes up and he realizes, this is not my purpose. And he goes back. Why? Because as Krishna says in the Gita to Arjuna, whatever spiritual sadhana you do, it's there like a bank balance to you, however many lives you can. He said, look, I can do this. So Babaji was smiling. He said, sun le kuch mat bolna. He said, listen, don't say anything. So, and then he said, look, here, my hands are here. He showed like this. My hands are here. Look here. So he said, here, like this. Then he did like this. Then he produced one Rudra. And he said, ये मैंने then he said, ये कहाँ से आया? So then I can give it to you. It won't disappear. You can keep it forever, put it in your neck. Do you want to put it in your neck? No, afterwards. Like this, what you have.
Oh my God.
If you want, then I will make a hole for you.
I just gotta give the listener some context.
Can I give a hole in this so that you can use it?
Yes, sir.
Put a string through. Yeah.
My God. Okay. This is on camera?
I don't know.
It got captured on camera. For the audio listeners, on camera, we just... a Rudraksh got created out of thin air.
And it smells very nice. You want to check.
Throughout the journey of the Ranveer Show, we've had some extremely epic moments, but none as epic as a Himalayan master, Shri M, manifesting a Rudraksh out of thin air live on the show. This moment stayed with my team. We've been discussing it since the day we recorded this podcast. But honestly, every time we speak to Shri M, he gives us some of the most epic content. I believe his last episode with us is the highest viewed TRS episode ever. I highly recommend that you go check it out to understand the story of this man, because this episode is more philosophy-centric, more thought-centric, and I'd even say deeper and more spiritually fulfilling. If you're someone who loves the spiritual episodes of TRS, this episode with Shri M is going to be extremely memorable for you. For more episodes just like this, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world, because we're a Spotify exclusive. Before I let you slip into this one, I will remind you that my meditation app, Level Supermind, is now live on the App Store and the Play Store. Make sure you download it. Make sure you use it, especially if you wish to begin or enhance your meditation process. An epic episode of Shri M with yours truly is now beginning. Shri M, sir, welcome back to the Ranveer Show.
Thank you. Namaskar.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, very good.
Last time's episode was beyond epic. It was so epic. It was so many learnings, so many stories. Audiences kind of call it one of their favorite episodes of all time. And
that's nice to hear.
yeah, we clocked in a huge number of views because of all your experiences.
It's also because of questions, proper questions.
Oh, I'm glad, sir. Honored to be doing this with you again,
Thank
honestly.
You. Thank you.
Has anything changed in your life since the last time we spoke?
Yes, that I've become more and more busy. I mean, that's what has changed.
Okay.
And maybe I got fed up of shaving these days. Beyond that, no much change. Too busy.
I think the beard's looking cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a bit of a cricketer vibe on you. Okay, so the last time, the way we did the podcast was we did your story from your childhood up to maybe the age of 19 or 20.
Yeah.
And it was just in those 20 years that we extracted so many stories and so much information.
Yeah.
There is two ways in which I want to take this podcast. One is a continuation of the last time.
Okay.
But two, honestly, is a lot of my own questions because after a very long time, we're doing a spiritual conversation.
Sure.
So I think we'll just begin from there, sir.
Okay.
there was a long period in your life where you took up very serious sadhana with your guru.
Yes.
And I think that's about the point where we left off
Ah.
from the last time.
Yeah.
So I would like for you to begin there.
Mhm.
Maybe let's actually begin with a very simple question,
Hmm.
which is the concept of a guru. I think a lot of young spiritual seekers don't even understand
Yeah.
how important that is. And that's the one lesson I've gained through the show, that you might gain spiritual knowledge through the internet, through Google, but it can be dangerous. So, two questions. What's a guru? Second is, why can it be dangerous if you do it without a guru?
Right. So, to answer your second question first, it's not actually dangerous in that sense of the term, but you might wander around quite a bit without going on the right track. That itself, from the spiritual point of view, is a waste of time. If you don't have a proper teacher, you might wander around in your own ways. Good to learn, but then without proper direction, by the time you look back, you might have spent a lot of time not being able to do anything substantial. This problem is there.
By wandering around, do you mean different paths?
Not different paths, not only different paths. Look, if you go into the internet, you see various teachers, various teachings, and then you don't know how to choose what to do. So you do little bit here, you do little bit there, you do little. There is no full attention, one pointed sadhana going on. See, whatever path you choose. So therefore, one wastes a lot of time. In my case, I was lucky that even though I met many yogis and spiritual people, I found Maheshwarnath Babaji and I kind of accepted him as my teacher. So it was a little better for me because I was properly guided. If I had doubts, I could ask him. Sometimes, if I did something wrong, I would be, in a way, I would say, punished. And when I did something good, there will be some appreciation. And here was a treasure house of experience and knowledge from whom I derived a lot of goodness from there.
Okay.
So this is why it may be better. Of course, there are many paths. The problem is that what we are searching for generally, spiritually, I'm saying purely spiritually, not good health, good mind, all this is part of your practice of yoga and meditation. But suppose one is looking the higher horizon and you're looking for purely spiritual, then it's so vast and infinite that one can't say that this is the only way to it. I don't say. I always say Kriya Yoga is my parampara, my tradition. But Babaji himself used to ask, what Kriya did Mirabai do?
You'll have to give some context on who Mirabai is to the listeners.
Now, Mirabai, India, many people know that Mirabai was a princess, a queen of some kingdom in Rajasthan or somewhere, I don't know, Gujarat, I'm not sure. Now, she was a Krishna Bhakta. All the time she was worshipping her Krishna and wanted to have a darshan, actual meeting with Krishna. She didn't have any knowledge of scriptures, she didn't have any such thing. And yet, she's supposed to have been highly spiritual and had many darshans of the deity of the infinite whom she worshipped as Krishna. She did not practice any pranayam, did not do any yoga, she didn't know any of these things, but she did get there. And she was such an important person that a great yogi like Ramananda, when he used to not meet women. He used to keep himself shut and he would meet one by one people. And if women go, he would say, I don't want to meet them.
Because they're a distraction for the yogi?
Yeah, so Mirabai went there to meet him. He said, I don't want to. Somebody said, this is Mirabai. He said, no, I still don't want to see her. So Mirabai sent him a note. He said, you don't want to see women? From my point of view, there's only one man, Krishna. All of you are women. So which one? So he said, bring her in. That. So such a person did not do any Kriya Yoga or anything of that kind. No pranayam, no not. I'm not saying it's my parampara. I'll defend it with all my might. But yeah. And Ramana Maharshi on the other side, he was a jnani. I mean, one who sought the truth through inquiry, Jnana Yoga.
Okay. By
He
questioning?
questioning, trying to find out for himself what is his true identity, who he was. He's only one formula he put. He said, Deham naham koham soham, which means I am not the body. Then who am I? I am that. Soham. Soham means it's not just a mantra. Soham means that I am. Soham. So Babaji always used to ask, don't think that everybody has to do Kriya. There are some people who are yogically inclined. For them, Kriya is good. But even Kriya will become a mechanical exercise if you don't have that serious inquiry in trying to find out your true identity. And also, you don't have a little bit of devotion in your heart. So it becomes a mechanical practice. Like Kabir Das used to say, Jadhad prem na sanchare, sodhad jaan smashan. जैसे खाल लुहार की सांस ले तो बिन प्राण, which means if there is no devotion, love, etc. in the heart, it's as good as a smashan, as a cremation ground. He said even the bellows of a blacksmith, those old type bellows which blacksmiths, they also breathe, but they don't have life. See, so it's even Kriya should not become a mechanical process. There should be earning for moving forward. There should be an amount of bhakti, I would call it, heart in it, and so on. So this is why I'm saying all this is because I had a teacher who taught me all this properly. Therefore, I think it's in a way, even if you spend some time trying to explore what is my path, finally it's good idea to click on to someone and go on practicing. And that if you keep digging bore wells everywhere, 10 feet, then dig another, you won't get water. One place, go deep, you might get something out there.
Okay. The reason I'm bringing up this question is because it's been a very active question. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had some very incredible celebrities on the show. And all of them seem to have achieved a certain degree of self-actualization. There was Virender Sehwag, Sara Ali Khan, Manoj Bajpayee, and a few more people. And everyone highlighted how important destiny has been in their own journeys. And of course, I know that destiny plays a role, but it was weird how all these 6, 7 podcasts we did, everyone brought up destiny and how they're an outcome of circumstance. And circumstance is something I've been thinking about a lot as well. I feel even this podcast happens because the relationship I share with my mother is a very podcasting relationship since I was a little kid. Always had deep conversations, stories from both sides. That's why I enjoy this job. Those are my circumstances. Do you believe that destiny is a very important factor in a spiritual journey as well? Like everyone has their own timelines, and whoever's actually meant to fall into this path will fall into their path.
I do believe that there is some kind of a plan, of course, which you might call destiny. But also, there are many people who get this plan, but who are not able to move forward.
Really?
Because they're not putting in enough effort into it. So I also give equal importance to effort. Look, we have passed through maybe 200 million years of genetic evolution, right? So there is a lot of mixing and remixing of genetics. So every person you see is a mixture of 2 million years of. So some parts of our brain are already wired because of the genes, right? We cannot deny that. Even if you don't want to believe in past birth, but you still are wired in some way. 200 million years, not even 2 births or 3 births. Genetic evolution. Now, given that, we are also given opportunities and openings to work. And when that opportunity comes, we need to take advantage of the opportunity. Then it works. Of course, if it doesn't work, one thing about understanding is that, well, it hasn't worked, probably because I didn't put in enough work, or maybe I'm not destined. So let me change and look at some other way. 2 ways of looking at it. I'm saying for the youngsters especially, you just now mentioned many people were young people. So while, yes, they appreciated that they were destined in some way, but they put in a lot of hard work. Virender
Mm.
Sehwag could not have reached there without batting or bowling. I don't know what he does. For hours together. There may be, I must tell you this. I went to Hong Kong some years ago. There was a guy called Hari Leela. He's still there, I think. He must have been at that time 92 years old. A little bit on the fat side, but very active and so on. So he invited me for lunch in his own hotel. So he told me, this life, is like snakes and ladders. I said, why do you say that? He said, because he also holds the franchise for all the what is that? Holiday Inns
Oh, holiday.
throughout South Asia.
Okay.
Big man, Sindhi man. So he told me, it's snakes. I said, why do you say that? He said, sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. And the guy, when he's down, thinks I should go up, is the fellow who rises finally. But then he said, luck, he called it luck for destiny, also plays its part. He said, he started his career in Hong Kong as a tailor who could make suits overnight. When you order in the morning, you get your delivery in the evening. And there were a lot of Westerners at that point in Hong Kong. He started at that time. He said many of my friends also were in the same business. They were also doing the same. I came up, they didn't. I can't explain this. Call it luck, call it destiny. But he said I worked very hard. If I had not worked hard, I could not have come up. But there were others also working hard who didn't come up. So you have to have a balance between these two things. You can't simply say destiny and sleep.
Okay.
When your opportunity comes, when the blueprint is ready, you should start working on it.
Okay. In order to understand this concept of opportunity coming your way, the one thing I have to ask you now is the story again. I think something we didn't touch upon the last time was your time before you were born in this body. And I know it's something you've spoken about in your books. And there was a lot of readers of your books who had checked out the podcast. And if you go through a comment section on that episode, a lot of people have requested for this question.
Yeah. So if you read, I wrote a book after the autobiography. It's called The Journey Continues.
Okay.
In which I have stated a few of my past life experiences. So I have not been able to put together many, but those who I could put together in some way, these I have written about my past life. There you will see that even this, me sitting here, attained a certain level of spiritual understanding fully only in this life. I have worked so hard in many lives. Even though I had a teacher coming, Babaji was following me for many lives.
Really?
Rather, I was following him for many lives. My first experience takes me, what I remember, takes me back to even the time of Krishna's time. And after that, as one of the founders of the ruling family of Jaisalmer, even before Jaisal. All these places, there was some instructor for me. There was a teacher. From Jaisalmer, Babaji came into the picture. And in fact, it was he who designed the coat of arms for the Jaisalmer royal family. And then, after a great deal of war, he said, Abhi, bas karo, now go into your spiritual path fully. This is the beginning. So what I can say, what you can draw from this is that one starts very early and works hard. Many lives you may take to come to a point where this is the last life where you attain your spiritual understanding. So to say that some people got it young, some people even till their death they are not able to find it. Those who got it young are those who have already gone through it in a great way many times. And this life they're completing their sadhana.
What is young?
Some people at the age of 8, for instance, Babaji visited me. Out of the blue, people would think, but no, it is a link to the past. Lahiri, um, who is that? Ramana Maharshi, at the age of 14, he got this experience suddenly that he was separated from his body. He didn't do any sadhana before that. He had no teacher, nothing, nothing that we know of. And he felt that he was out of his body. And then he saw his body lying there. And he said to himself, if I'm not the body because I can see it lying there, then who am I? That's where his inquiry started. So, how did he get there at 14? There are many people who go 14 years of age, nothing happens to them. There's something in the past. When I say young, I mean quite early in life. That's what I meant.
Okay.
And
Okay.
one more thing, since we are saying this, you never know who has reached where in this life until something clicks. Sometimes you find a person who maybe is 30, 40, involved in things which you don't like, terrible things. Then one day he wakes up and he realizes, this is not my purpose. And he goes back. Why? Because, as Krishna says in the Gita to Arjuna, whatever spiritual sadhana you do, it's there like a bank balance to you, however many lives you can. It's there. You don't have to start at square one. Start at 2, 3, wherever you left it off.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the birth at Krishna's time?
It's there in the book. It's a little bit elaborate. I'm a little bit embarrassed saying that it's a female body and so on. So,
Okay.
yeah.
You can be born as a female or a male?
Soul has no sex.
Okay. Why does the soul choose to be born as a male or a female?
Depending on what experiences it needs to gather.
And there are different experiences for both.
Generally, yeah, of course. If male and a female face the same situation in life, you'll see there are two different reactions. Hormonally different. Various things.
Would you like to shed some light on people who are born in trans bodies?
Yes, of course. This is a case of some mix up of hormones where people are neither here nor there. Every human being has male and female hormones. It is well known. For some, the female hormones are more, so they are females. For some, the men have more male hormones, so they are men. It's like that. But sometimes it's not a new thing. Shiva himself, one of his major manifestations is Ardhanarishwara, which means half male, half female. So, which means certain characteristics like art, literature, things like that, they are more manifest in the feminine aspect of a human being. While strings of physical strength and, go getting and things like that, they come from the male aspect. Even if your hormones are balanced and you are born into a male or as a female, it's a good idea to develop the opposite traits to some extent.
For balance.
For balance. So, now for instance, in yoga, Kriya, and any other yoga, pranayam, we know that there is the Ida and the Pingala.
You'll have to give context. Sir.
Ida is the nadi that flows from the brain down to you on the left side, and Pingala flows from the right to the left.
It's like an astral nerve, correct?
But it corresponds to the nadis correspond to the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve, which controls the heart, lungs, and so on. They are. But actually, we are talking about a psychic energy rather than a physical energy. But
so in the physical body, it would be your vagus nerve?
Exactly.
But
vagus nerve.
It actually has astral significance.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you say nadi, we mean both actually.
And the sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Yeah. Okay. And the prana works through both. Now, the Ida Nadi on the right side is called the cool Nadi. That is, in fact, is the feminine system. And the right is called the Pingala Nadi, which is the plus. When I say plus and minus, not in a bad way, but opposite. Like cathode and anode, let's say. So, You can't say this is less and that is more. Without both, you cannot do anything.
Yes.
So in the practice of pranayam, we try to balance both.
Hmm.
So that is why they do what is called anulom vilom. You breathe in through one nostril, breathe in through the other. The anulom vilom. Go in through the left, hold for a while, breathe out through the right, breathe into the right, hold and go out to the left. This is called alternate breathing. This balances the plus and minus in your body. And for a spiritual person, it's required to balance both. You need both.
Hmm.
Which is why, like some great people, not all, but like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the guru of Swami Vivekananda. Everybody knows Swami Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They did their sadhana considering themselves as the consort of Krishna. But they had male body. They were not trans. They had male body. So the mind was working that way. See? So for the yogi who doesn't want to get too much caught up in the emotional turmoil of these emotions, they balance the Ida and the Pingala through Anulom Vilom, through the practice of Anulom, which is, I think, essential to move forward.
Okay.
It balances the nadis. Having said that, I think both properties or both traits are part of a human being, male or female,
Hmm.
although it may not in many instances be overtly visible as a physical manifestation.
Okay. Have you ever been in love with a human being in this life?
In this life, yes, I have.
This was after your spiritual journey began?
First, I was in love with Maheshwarnath Bhavati, my master. I mean, love doesn't mean only just physical, like
No, like romantic love.
romantic love. I had a little bit with my wife before I got married.
But this was after your spiritual
Mm.
journey.
Mhm.
Does spiritual growth reduce the amount of romance?
No.
You can still be Shah Rukh Khan.
Of course.
Okay.
I can't be Shah Rukh Khan, and I don't know how romantic is. I really don't know. But what you see in film may not be the truth also.
Yeah.
Which we can't say. But I think it's possible. Somewhere there is a misunderstanding that if you're spiritual, your heart becomes stone. No. In fact, your heart becomes more sensitive and perhaps more selfless, but more sensitive. So emotions like love, affection, all these things are quite common. Attachment may not be there. Attachment is when you get obsessed with something.
So when you're saying attachment is not there.
Which means that you are not completely dependent on it. See, attachment is a question of dependence. Love need not be dependent.
Okay.
Can be free.
Okay. Or even romantic love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like even if they go, I will let them because I love them.
Yeah,
either way.
exactly.
Okay.
Maybe they like somebody better. So
Why? Why? So?
who knows? It's okay.
No, I'm kidding. Okay. Little straightforward question for you. Okay. What do you think your wife's past lives were to land up with you, who's pretty much a sage in a modern body, in this life? What good karma, or generally what karma has she done to have you as a husband?
Can I put it this way? Because she might watch the podcast. Maybe what good karma I did to be with her.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. Actually, I don't know. I have not delved into her past lives. It's not allowed to look into somebody else's past life. It's like reading private letters. There must be something that she has ended up with. Sometimes one would say crackpot like me, and has gone through a lot of difficulties because of that. Because I'm never there. I'm going here. I'm going there. The very fact that she says, "Okay, that's how his life is and is balanced," shows a sign of spiritual maturity. Something is there. That is not possible. I know there are lots of people who say, "Oh, we love you, sir," but it's different.
Okay. Is she also spiritual?
Spiritual, but she does her yoga. She's a good human being. She doesn't. She's a vegetarian. She doesn't. She's not interested in buying things, hoarding, none of these things, and she's a very kind person. If that is spiritual, yes, she is.
So, other than meditation, sadhana, prayer, there are different activities that dictate how spiritual or not
Yeah,
spiritual you are.
exactly. Like
Okay.
service. I meet people, apart from my wife, I meet people who say that we don't believe in all this spiritual God stuff, but we believe that human beings are by nature truly good. Something is covering their feelings, so they're acting like this. And we like to serve human beings.
Hmm.
They say we like to serve human beings. We don't believe in any of this spiritual stuff that you're talking about. But we do service to unfortunate human beings. I think that is also a sign of spiritual maturity. Something in their past lives has brought them to that stage where they're able to do selfless work and help humanity. Such people, I personally believe, after a while, they will get automatically, naturally interested in spiritual things because the mind is getting purified.
Mhm.
They are people with sattva guna.
Okay. I want to talk about your first few days with your master because I am assuming you weren't meditating too much before that phase where you actually started meditating with him.
True.
What were the first few days of training like? I don't know whether you can call it training, but I'm assuming there were some things he made you do, some activities that maybe purified you. This is where we begin creating the sequel from the last
Mhm.
episode. A few key terms in that one were higher beings,
Yes.
Yeti,
Yes.
Shri M, Babaji.
Yeah.
So let's begin in that tangent again.
See, it's like this. I was meditating. I won't say that I was not meditating, but I didn't know exactly how to go about it. I was doing in my own way, like many young people who are interested. I used to sit for some time in sunset and close my eyes. And after Babaji met me and put his hand on my head at the age of 8, I was not normal after that. I mean, I did everything that young people did in school and college, but there was one part of my mind which was meditative, which was looking at how to acquire more knowledge regarding these matters, meeting people. All that was already happening. It's not that it was not happening. When I met Babaji for the first time, physically again, I mean, this was only for 5 minutes when I was 8 years old. And when I started living with him, he then put me into a certain route of meditation, like how many times, how many hours you should meditate. And then he taught me Kriya, taught me how to practice Kriya.
When it comes to Kriya Yoga, a lot of our listeners have read the autobiography of a yogi,
Hmm.
where Kriya Yoga is spoken about as a very fast way of advancing spiritually. But I believe there's also some sort of warm up that your body needs to reach that point.
Yes.
Correct?
I told you, I think I remember saying last time to you, but that in the spiritual journey, there is no jet plane path. Everything is hard work. We need to, I mean, people have said that, but I don't totally subscribe to this.
Okay.
Just because you have taken Kriya, you shouldn't think that no. There are many preparations required. You need to adjust your emotions, your feelings. Yama niyamas has to be followed. And then when you've done that, it also depends on how much Kriya you're doing. If you ask an ordinary, normal person to sit down now, do every day 3 hours of Kriya, it's not possible. So you need to go slowly. So I started with half an hour. Babaji was an expert in this mind matters. First, he told me half an hour. Then you go 1 hour, then 45 minutes, 1 hour, like that. There was a time when I was meditating almost 6 hours a day.
Really?
6 hours meaning doing Kriya for about 3 4 hours, 3 hours, and then silent meditation. It's very important for all Kriya practitioners that after the technique, you have to meditate silently for some. And that silent meditation period started increasing for me. Because when you do Kriya, you're absorbed in the inner. You begin to enjoy it. The last part of meditation is to just allow yourself to enjoy it without doing anything.
No mantras or anything?
Nothing. It's called pure Sakshi, which means witness.
Again, let me give some context to the listeners, because a lot of people associate meditation with maybe some Western techniques that they've learned, and that those are also fine. But it's about focus on your breath, focus on the sounds around you. When you're talking about Kriya or Kriya related meditations, there's a very particular technique. It might be something related to breathing or a mantra,
It is.
which pushes you into a very deep state.
Exactly.
It is a focus based technique, but then when you come out of it, and there are ways to come out, uh, you need to spend some time in silence and just absorb what. See, I'm losing words. Just absorb what your body has
Yes.
seen.
Very important. This is very important. At the end, this has to be done. So I did that. And then, Babaji always traveled. He never stayed in one place for very long. So we traveled from place to place. He always went on foot. So I also walked with him. There's no way out. And everywhere we stopped, whenever he found a great yogi or somebody who had, sometimes he used to take me to people. Today I don't consider to be great yogis. That time I would have fallen for it. They had some powers, like they used some siddhis and they used to do something. Normally I would have fallen for it. Babaji always alerted me. This is not the end of the journey. I won't tell you in this part, it's interesting. Many people come and say, can I have this siddhi, that siddhi? In Ashtanga Yoga, there are Ashta Siddhis in the Yoga Sutra. So I will just tell them, look, this is not the aim of your practice. Yes, as you practice, on the way you might come across, such things, but they're useless. Move forward.
The distractions from the end goal.
I must tell you that. It's not, people say, oh, it's because you cannot do anything. You say, sorry, I said, it's not like that. Yeah. So, this Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had a guru, he had many gurus. One of his gurus was Bhairavi Brahmani, who was a lady who was supposed to have been a disciple of Trailanga Swami, the great, whose samadhi is in Banaras. She taught him the Vaishnava Tantras. And she went off. Many years later, two of Ramakrishna's Guru Bhais, one name was Manikandan. He came back and met Ramakrishna. I used to call him Gadadhar. So, because they know each other. And he said, hey, Ramakrishna had a habit of late night, midnight, to walk away into the Panchavati, a group of 5 trees near Dakshineshwar, and meditate at midnight. He had to take a lantern and go. So one day Manikandan said, hey, Guru Bhai, Dada, you don't need a lantern. He said, why? He said, because I have a light here. Okay, I can put that light for you. And the story is that he opened his whatever and showed a light, and Ramakrishna went and meditated and came back. After coming back, Ramakrishna said to him, you may think I don't have these capacities. Doesn't matter, I'm not interested. But this is not good for you. From tomorrow, you cannot use this light. It is gone. And it was gone.
Why was it not good for him?
He said, what is the use of showing light in the night? So here you have a torch. It's as simple as that. You have to do more things. So I saw a lot of great kind of yogi types and all. I was not. Babaji also explained to me the principle how these things operate. They're not such a big deal. If you practice certain things 6 days, 7 days with me, you can also do such. It's not a big deal.
When do I get to meet you, sir? I'm
See,
kidding.
look, for instance, I went to Lakshman Jula. There behind the mountain, there was a yogi, Nepalese yogi stay.
This is Rishikesh.
Beyond Rishikesh, Devrayag. So, where the Bhagirathi and the Mandakini meet.
Okay.
So I went there. This yogi said, look, I can do this. So Babaji was smiling. He said, sun le kuch mat bolna. I said, listen, don't say anything. So, and then he said, look, here, my hands are here. He showed like this. My hands are here. Look here. So he said, here, like this. Then he did like this. Then he produced one Rudra. And he said, ये मैंने then he said, ये कहाँ से आया? So then I can give it to you. It won't disappear. You can
th-
keep it forever, put it in your neck.
uh,
Do you want to put it in your neck? No. Afterwards. Like this, what you have.
oh my God.
If you want, then I will make a hole for you.
I just gotta give the listener some context. Did
Now,
I get?
can I give a hole in this so that you can use it?
Yes,
Put,
sir.
put a string through. Yeah.
My God. Okay. On
You
this
can.
is on camera.
I don't know. but- yeah,
It
it's
got captured on camera. For the audio listeners, on camera we just like a Rudraksh got created out of thin air.
and it smells very nice. You want to check.
This is on honor.
Smell
My God.
nice. So, what I mean to say is, I have seen all this, right? But I don't think it's a big deal. This is not a big deal. You come with me, stay 9 days. You will also do. It's what I'm. Why did I do this? Just to tell you that it's not a big deal. It's. This is not what we are aiming at.
I'm a little speechless, so
No,
sorry.
no.
Okay.
Producing ashes, producing. It's. See what happens. People get sidetracked and go away, and then they always expect this thing to happen. That's it. I'm saying, so I watched all this. That was part of my spirit. Since you asked me about spiritual training, I was taken to all these guys and shown all these things and said, look, this is not it. Meditate deeper, go to your inner essence. Right? So this was part of the training.
To go beyond the distractions.
Yes. And this is nothing. See, this Rudraksh is not produced from thin air. Let me put it. It's somewhere. But I have agencies which can bring them here. That is different. Not physical agencies.
Higher beings.
Whatever, higher, lower, little fellows. But it's what I'm trying to say. It's not a big deal. You don't have to be highly spiritual person to do this. Also, I've seen horrible people, but they have some powers like this. Karna Pishashu, something they say that it's talking to me, it's telling me about your life and things. And
Wow.
people fall for it.
Wow. Okay. So many thoughts right now. The question I have for you, sir, is what's happening in the world right now? And why are you appearing on podcasts?
Can you keep that safe?
It's with me. Okay.
Mhm.
Like very
Ah.
it's very dear to me.
So, what is happening in the world and why
Wha-
am I on the pod? Yeah, yeah.
Or why? Okay, I'll tell you where this question comes from. I would not have dared to do podcasts like this even 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Right.
I just felt like audiences weren't ready. The questions that are coming up and the questions that are being accepted by audiences now are different post the pandemic.
Mm.
Plus, we're seeing war in the world.
Mm.
We're seeing earthquakes in the world. This is not a normal decade.
True.
What is happening and where are we going? Where is the human race going?
The saddest news is that there are cracks appearing in Joshimath,
Yes.
right? Now, these cracks, if they extend to Badri, what will happen? So, what has happened is human beings have misused nature. Environmentally, it's in a very bad shape. You can make highways to go to Badrinath, but that's not everything. The ecosystem in the Himalayas is so sensitive and so it sits on a fault line, right? So we have to be very careful with this. It's not just having highways. Okay, I understand it's easier for people to go. They say, oh, there are highways in Switzerland, but Switzerland's Alps don't sit on a fault. So I have a feeling that now people seeing this happening, floods, sea levels are rising, icebergs are melting, cruelty in human beings in general is increasing. All kinds of things are happening. Of course, there is one side where spiritual, yeah. So I think the young person also has begun to think, because the future belongs to the young, begun to think that this is not everything. There must be something more to it.
Like spiritual.
Definitely. Because we in India are lucky because we have been exposed to it for so many years, which may not be the case with other people. So people have begun to think, is there something more than this? Is this all there is to? Are we going to die suddenly of an earthquake or something happening? How many people died in Turkey recently? Right? So all these disasters are a pointer towards saying, well, this is not everything. There is something more than this, which can never be created or destroyed. Hmm? So when young people begin to look into this and they're searching for it, podcasts like yours are important. And so I agreed to come for these because I want to provide some kind of a link to these people. They're wandering around here and there.
Had your master told you that a difficult time will come
Yes, he did.
and our
And
times
many of the things he said are happening now. And that time I used to think that maybe some things will happen, some may not happen, but many things which he said are happening. Sea level rising, when he said that, I couldn't believe it at that time. He said the ice in Antarctica will melt. He said there will be earthquakes in the Himalayas. I, I said it is a sacred place. He said, yeah, but it is still a physical system. It can happen. Today, these things, and he also said, which is a positive thing, that young will get interested in spiritual matter. This is a very important
is the-
positive take on this.
Yep.
He said the young people will also get interested in spiritual matters, and this is important to prevent disasters in future. He said they are the people going to take over next in this world, and it's good that they go with this understanding and background, which is why I also try to concentrate on the young. I go to satsangs. When I see more young people, I'm really happy because I think I'm doing my job. He also said, since we are on the subject, that one day thousands of people will be listening to you. So get ready for it. Have substance to talk to them.
Is this signed off as a difficult decade for humans?
This
The
it's a very
20s?
difficult decade for humans, but once we cross this, we will come out better. It's a reformatory.
Purification? Does India have a very, very big role this decade?
India has a very important role in this decade. Not as people say just on the economic front and so on, but also from the point of view of spiritual awakening and understanding. Now, when you say spiritual, don't uh, equate it only with religious, okay? When I say spiritual, looking into the source of things, looking into the source of the outer world as well as the source of the inner world. These are very scientific things. And in our tradition in India, the spiritual content is so good that one could look into these and find answers. You know, Vedic mathematics, for instance. Today, the computer runs on 1 and 0, right? Who invented the concept of zero? Shunya.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I know somebody who has, I don't totally agree in many things with him. He's a very orthodox person, good man, head of a or mutt and so on. Many people don't know that this man, they think that, oh, he's a enormous, so he's talking like this. 28 books on Vedic mathematics. He has authored. Because you want to come on a podcast, I'm sure. I don't know, unless you can. But such things are part of our eternal tradition. And it is important that we talk about it now. The world is beginning to realize also. See how many foreigners are going around searching for various things here.
I don't know whether I should ask you this question or not. Okay, and I ask you this question because I've actually asked a lot of military men this off camera. Is the world gearing up for a World War type situation according to you?
Luckily, World War will not be allowed to happen. Even if it begins somehow, they will put an end to it. Because if a World War happens, there is always going to be nuclear war. Nobody can afford nuclear. So I don't think this will happen.
Okay. Okay.
But the situation may look like it's going towards it, which is a good sign. We should start changing from here.
I'm a little, thrown off because of this,
Sorry,
Rudraksh,
I
honestly.
shouldn't
No,
have given it
n- eh,
till the last.
no,
I'm
no,
sorry.
sir.
The subject came up, so I was.
No, I mean, I really appreciate it. One thing I'll be very raw and honest with you about, okay? I meet a lot of 13 and 14-year-olds who've begun watching the show now, which I find
Nice.
strange.
Why? Nice.
I've been doing this job for 8 years and I've always given these videos, not the podcast. I used to create videos
Mhm.
before the podcast.
Mhm.
I used to give it my 200% effort. But
Mhm.
only 8 years down the line now, I'm reaching out to much
Ah,
larger audiences.
right.
And the reason they get into the show is because of the videos related to ghosts and horror. And I won't lie, I'm doing those episodes in order to reach out to a wider audience. Though in my heart, I'm doing it for episodes like this.
Uh-huh.
We talk about higher concepts.
Right.
Yesterday, I met a group of 14-year-olds, very well dressed and cool guys, and I went to them and I was like, what videos do you watch? And I assumed they'd say fashion videos. They were like, no, we watch your spiritual stuff. I was like, you're 13 years old. You're 14 years old. What makes you watch the spiritual stuff? But then that was a good sign for me as well. Now the question I'll ask you, sir, is the horror related stuff.
Horror.
Yeah. For actually gripping more 13, 14-year-olds. Are these guys advanced souls? Like the group of kids, because they know way more than what we knew at 13, 14.
Yeah, the young ones who are coming now, some have come, some are coming. Even the generation younger than me, they're all, some of them at least, are mature souls who have come for a purpose. They have but even the IQ, no, is much better than when we were that age.
Yeah.
Not you, I. So, which is a good sign, which means we are evolving. We are getting human beings now. At one time, evolving meant scientific, material, economic. Now we are moving out from the frontal lobe civilization into something different. That parts of the brain which look into these matters are activated in many young people. So they will ask questions there. I have one at home now who looks very curious, but I think he's going to ask me these questions after a while. I have a grandson now who is 2 years old. And his common word he uses, anything is no. Neti, not this, like Shankara said, neti. And recently only he had started learning to say, yeah. So till now he has been saying no. So when I look at him, I see that the mind is very inquisitive. It's not because he's my grand. It's that I've seen many such young people. Yesterday I met a young girl who told her mother, hey, you should start meditating. And you know how old she is? Yesterday she was there at the marriage, had gone for a wedding. 4 years, 4.5 years. Where does it come from in the head?
It's stored somewhere.
Yes. So, and I'm saying this in the beginning when I used to go for this, we have Sibir, which means retreat in different places. It's a 2.5 day retreat. And at the end, I give Kriya. So we have a stipulation that below the age of 12, we don't give Kriya. Some years, from 4 years, 3 years ago, people started bringing kids 12 years old. So I said, they're too small. They just past 12. You said 12 is okay. And this is increasing now. Because the kids are telling the mom and father, we also want to take Kriya. Why only you? This has never happened before. I'm relating it to what you said.
Yes.
A group of youngsters who said, we're listening to spiritual videos. What the hell you think? Because at that age, normally one wouldn't have been looking at that.
Yeah.
So the new generation, while on one hand, there's one set which is a little bit too destructive in a sense. There's also another set coming up which is very creative in this matter.
Geniuses.
I think they will balance.
we had a very advanced Tantra practitioner on the show. And I feel his presence on the show, his name is Rajarshi Nandi. He came for two reasons. One, kind of a similar reason to why you came, to talk about these things on a public platform. Finally. The weird thing is he came on Kal Bhairav Jayanti, came on that day, and he recorded like 5 incredible episodes with us. And people have really lost their minds about those episodes because the kind of stuff he said, the internet in general doesn't have that kind of content. Two, he shifted my path. Okay. And he answered so many of the questions other people have not been able to answer. There have only been two people who've been able to answer these things precisely, and that's you and him. His name is Rajarshi Nandi. I want to ask you about Tantra and where it fits into the spiritual path. My reading of it is that it's not for everyone, firstly. It does have a fierce aspect, but if you're guided in it gradually, it makes your path even faster. But that's not exactly why you should go into it. Would you like to highlight Tantra a little bit? Because when I told my mother that I've started doing some mantras, she's like, what is all this? You first time making videos about ghosts, and now you're getting into Tantra. But I don't look at it as a negative thing.
You know, somewhere along the line, this Tantra has acquired a very bad name. Normally, because people associate Tantra only with Daghoris, or people who live in the smashans, or people who drink and have all kinds of orgies. And this is the picture presented in Tantra. But really, Tantra is not just this. Look, first we must understand the word yantra, mantra, tantra. Yantra is a diagram.
Tantra is a diagram.
Yantra.
Yantra is a
It's a
diagram.
diagram. Mantra is the sound that activates that machine. Yantra also means a machine, you know that.
Could a crystal like that be a yantra?
Could be.
An object.
Object, but it should have some signal by which it can attract forces.
A symbol.
That is called the yantra.
Okay.
The diagram.
Okay.
The yantra. And mantra is what activates the energy inside. And tantra is a combination of both. Okay. Now, the meaning of now you should also understand that when you say tantra, traditionally there are two paths. One is called the Kaulachara or the left hand path, Vamachara, and the other is the Samaya Marga. Two paths. Adi Shankara, who wrote the Saundari Lahiri, was a Samaya Margin. He practiced the right hand path. Liquor is not used. None of the Panchamakaras are used. You know what are Panchamakaras?
Yes.
They're not used. Because they're all produced within the body through meditation and so on. Tough path. Vamachara believes that human beings, most of us are categorized as Pashu level, which means still animals. We cannot give up everything and suddenly go to high spiritual levels, which is only few talented people or people with that background can do. What about the rest? So they said, enjoy and move forward. This is Tantra. So the key word used in Tantra, the slogan is Yogo, Bhogo Yogayate. That means yoga is bhoga. Bhoga is enjoyment. So when you do yoga, what happens? You enjoy internally when your Kundalini is awakened. Where does it awaken from? From the Muladhara. Where is the Muladhara? Just behind your reproductive organs. It is the same energy which flows downwards that one has sexual enjoyment. The Tantra, one who really knows Tantra, has learned how to activate this energy and make it also ascend upwards. Sometimes it can happen also through an act, which is why this bad name has come to Tantra. But that has to be done very carefully with proper guidance. Otherwise, you will just end up like any other physical act. One has to learn how to do khechiri. One should know how to vajroli, how to not allow the energy to go, but to hold it. And so, I mean, it's elaborate subject. What I'm trying to say, there are two paths in Tantra, left-handed path. Left-handed path makes use of the 5 makaras because they believe human beings cannot give up everything and go there, only through enjoyment and then slowly moving forward. Pancha makaras meaning 5 M's. Makara is M, alphabet. It is Matsya, Mamsa, Madhu, which is Madhya, uh, Maithuna, and forget is one more.
It's basically
Grains,
grain,
grains. Yeah.
grain, fish, meat,
Yes, yes,
alcohol, sex.
yes. So what they're trying to do is using this to sublimate the mind. Not to remain there, but to sublimate the mind. So this is the part, the Kaulachara, it's also called. All the Kauls in Kashmir come from that. You see? So, but that does not mean that it is merely a kind of a, uh, what is it called? Partying kind of thing, Tantra. It's a very serious affair, and if proper teacher is there, one can definitely practice. Now, since we are on the subject, if you want, I want you to be clear about the picture of Tantra, which will take many such episodes, maybe. So, I would suggest that fortunately, there is a beautiful text which has been translated into English. It's written by somebody called Arthur Avalon, who also wrote The Serpent Power. Serpent Power is about the Kundalini. He wrote The Serpent Power, which is actually a translation of Purnananda Yogi's Sat Chakra Nirupana, description of the six chakras. So Arthur Avalon was, his name actually is Sir John Woodroffe. This is good for everybody to understand Tantra, for the viewers especially. He was a judge of the Calcutta High Court. He was an Englishman. So John Woodroffe was so interested in Tantra that later on he resigned from the High Court and spent time with the Tantrics. In Bengal is a very good center of Tantra. So based on studying the textbooks of Tantra, more than the practical aspects, he wrote an excellent book called Introduction to Tantra. I think you should read it.
Introduction.
Yeah, Introduction to Tantra.
All right.
And a few other books which are technical. No need to go into that. And Satchakra Nirupana, which is The Serpent Power. These two books. This will give a complete picture of what Tantra is and what are the textbooks you can rely on for understanding Tantra, so that one gets free of the idea that Tantra is just ghosts and ghouls and,
Because I know a lot of the listeners are listening to this episode for that reason. One thing I learned from the episode with Rajarshi sir was that when your path moves forward, there will be forces which will try to pull you back.
Of course.
And of course, these forces can be in other people's minds and hearts where they doubt you and they say, no, you won't be able to do it.
Absolutely.
But it can also actually be darker forces.
Yes.
Sometimes it could be darker forces influencing those people to pull you back.
Possible.
I want to know about this whole dark aspect, which is kind of the antithesis to spiritual growth.
Can I say something?
Sure, sir.
The moment you begin to think or apply your mind to this, their presence becomes stronger. It's better to use other things and positive things so that they don't have time to enter.
Okay. Would you not like to talk about it for the same reason?
Yeah.
Okay. Understood.
So this Babaji taught me, when you discuss these matters, they're all there. Come out of that. Discuss about the higher good beings and they're not there.
Okay. Fine. I will ask you the one burning question then that I've saved up till the end.
Sure.
Am I doing something wrong in like my life by like talking about these dark things on the internet?
No. That I'm saying the principle, the basic principle is that when you are talking about them, their presence is there. But here you need not, when I'm there, which one is out?
You've had to deal with these things?
Yes,
Okay.
Sometimes. I have written it also in my biography in some places. I've mentioned it. I had to put up a tough fight sometimes.
Even now?
No.
Not now. They don't come near.
From far.
Because there are already higher beings with you.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's actually a fight between
not only because of having higher beings, but now they look at me as a higher being. So
one last question for you, sir, on today's episode. What advice do you have for me?
I think you should continue to do what you're doing. good work. Apart from that, you also develop a routine of personal sadhana for yourself.
Okay.
Some kind of personal sadhana. I think you might be doing, but in case you are not, then better to start some quiet meditation, some sadhana. Hamsa, what we call in Kriya Yoga. You should do that every day so that tomorrow you will probably understand things better even when you talk to others who are in this field.
Yeah.
And for your own personal spiritual growth. Other than that, this is a wonderful thing that you're doing.
These
Because,
conversations?
yes, because lots of people get to know things which they wouldn't have got to know on internet.
Is this also a sort of service?
I think it's a service.
Okay.
Certainly is a service. From my point of view, look, I can talk, I can have satsangs, but that won't have as much reach as this. Since we are talking together now, how many people will know about it, right? So that way you're doing a service to Babaji, not just to me. You're getting me to do my work better, actually.
Sometimes you need questions to shape up
Of course.
thoughts.
You should always have questions open. You know, this idea that you should not ask questions, you should not doubt, I think they came much later. In the beginning, even the first hymn of creation ends by saying, perhaps he on high knows, or maybe he knows not. Without doubt and without questioning, you cannot explore anything.
Yeah. One last question, sir, for you. There is a strong desire in my heart to like almost now start giving up on like a material life. This has just come out of nowhere, probably over the last year. Maybe I saw like a peak of like materialism. And what I mean by materialism is the presence of everything,
Yeah.
everything that I hoped for when my career began. I wanted money, I wanted fame, I wanted public validation, experienced all three. There is genuinely a part of me that now wants to leave and just focus on sadhana. And that will mean stopping the show, perhaps. That will mean stopping YouTubing, leaving fame.
Can you, like the Bhagavad Gita, stay in the battlefield and continue with your spiritual?
Okay.
Kurukshetra. This is all a Kurukshetra. So consider it that you're doing something good and that you're not doing it only for name, fame, and so on. The name, fame, all was necessary to make it popular and so on. Now you don't have to do any such thing. You just do what comes to your mind naturally. You'll be doing good. So why would you quit and then go in? It's a question of mindset
Understood. And circumstance.
also.
Shri M, sir, thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to the higher beings
Whoever.
that gave you the answers in this one. Thank you to the higher beings that gave me the questions. That's all else. I'm just very grateful that I get to interact with people like yourself. And I am...
Maybe we meet again.
Yes, I'm hoping to see you very soon, sir. I hope I did justice to this conversation.
I think so. You should come sometime to Madanapalli.
I intend to. I
You
intend to.
should do that. Very quiet place.
Yeah, there's a lot of like...
Spend 1 or 2 days quietly. You don't have to interview, nothing. Yes.
Or maybe I do.
That is up to you, but even otherwise, you can just come spend some quiet time.
No,
See what we are doing.
Yeah. There's a lot of turmoil right now. And one thing I've noticed is life is a continuous process of seeing turmoil and then seeing phases of just peace. So, very important conversation for me. Just, I want to say thank you and so many other things that I'll pack into that one. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So that was the episode for today. The space that you see me recording, and especially if you're seeing the video version of this podcast, this is our interim space because our current space is being renovated. I do believe that when you have this kind of a conversation with a spiritual master like Shri M, if you're talking to them for so long, if you're extracting their knowledge, if you even simply invite them into a space, the entire space gets blessed. The entire space's energy changes. I'd go as far as saying that when it comes to some people who are this spiritually advanced, like Shri M, even when you listen to their podcasts, when you hear their voice, there is a certain amount of energy and calm that would spread in your room if you're listening to this on speaker, in your mind if you're listening to this on earphones or headphones. And that's the true joy of creating these episodes for you. Lots more to learn from the Himalayan master. Definitely going to be doing a Hindi episode very soon. I do recommend that you guys check out our Hindi podcast. It's just as spiritual, it's just as flavorful, but a tad bit more emotional. Make sure you go check that out. Make sure you follow us on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. Finally, if you wish to begin your own meditation journey, Level, my meditation app, is now live on the App Store and the Play Store. I've linked it down below. Beginners, for intermediates, for advanced meditation practitioners. This is where it's at. Lots of love to you guys. I'm sending y'all my true wish for your spiritual growth. I hope that these podcasts keep fueling you. Lots of love.